Code of conduct.
I said you can't say the stuff like you said like that and think that it's just cool to kind of throw that out there. So I'm gonna have my man EJ joining me, and then I have one of my favorite. I want to call him, the church guy in me, a friend of the show. I have one of the guys that he's pretty much he's been around since day one. So I got one of the guys that's going to come in and kick it with us. My man Richard Rush is going to join us in a little bit as well. We're going to be talking about basically the top quarterbacks of the league right now, how you see them, where you would rank them. That's kind of where the conversation started with EJ. Also, obviously, we're going to talk about the conversation continuing from last week on the Hump Day Hotline with Joe when we were talking about, who's going to make this defensive line, because when you really look at it, top to bottom, the Buffalo Bills have a very, very deep roster. We're set. And there's going to be guys that would make a roster elsewhere. Absolutely no problem. B, they would start elsewhere. And, you got guys that Bills fans are going to end up, it's going to break our hearts to let go of. So, we're going to talk to Joe about it. We're going to see what he thinks. So before I bring anybody in, though, I do want to take a quick moment. Listen, man, it's a bittersweet moment. It's a bittersweet day for me. I want to start off and I want to talk about Julio Jones. I know there's a portion of Bills Mafia who was with me that, well, you know what? I feel like I was in the middle. I'm kind of indifferent. I wanted Julio, but it didn't hurt my feelings if we didn't get Julio. It was kind of like whatever Brandon Beane decided to do, that's where I was good with. But there's a real odd portion. I don't want to call people odd, but I'm saying like it's an odd sector of the fan base that feels like now because he's with the Titans, instead of possibly coming to us, that now Julio isn't still Julio Jones. Like this dude isn't probably the most dominant wide receiver that we've seen, in this generation of football. If you want to take it a couple years back and talk about Megatron, cool. I'm with you there. I think Megatron would have him beat, but after Megatron, there's nobody that I'm gonna say is better than Julio Jones since Megatron. So this narrative that and it's not just Buffalo either. It's fans around the league. The narrative that Julio Jones is not as effective as he's always been, or the narrative that he's just this injury-prone player that now because he's with the Tennessee Titans, he is, it's like, oh, it's not going to matter because he's injury-prone anyway. Listen, if you want to pull up every single time that Julio Jones has shown up on the injury report, do me a favor and pull up the corresponding game to that Sunday and show me what his stats are, because showing up on the injury report means nothing to me. I always bring this example up when I have this Julio debate. Tom Brady in New England literally was on the injury report every single week for a bad shoulder, every single week for like 3 years in a row. But guess what? He played every year. He actually won MVP one of those years. Go look it up. Google is your friend. The thing that I'm saying is, though, for people to say that Julio ain't, I don't get it. I don't get it, y'all. I don't get it. That dude Julio has done things. He's literally the best Atlanta Falcon in history. And some people would debate that. Some people won't agree with that. That's fine. It's okay. Like there's certain people that I could see being in the conversation to be the greatest, but that conversation will always have Julio Jones in it. You'll never have a conversation about the best player in Atlanta Falcons history without mentioning Julio Jones. So I'm not gonna go too deep into like the Julio Jones love and the Julio Jones, because he's going to Tennessee. Now, the other conversation, the other part of that is, do I think that Julio Jones moved the needle enough in Tennessee to really think that they're a contender? Am I looking at Tennessee saying these guys are Super Bowl contenders? I don't know. We'll talk about that later on. I know in the chat earlier, Joe and I were talking, and Joe's like, "Well, I think they're going to regress. I think, yeah, the offense has gotten better, but the defense isn't quite there." Bruce was in part of that conversation, and Bruce kind of said, "Hey, they were due for it. They didn't draft the best, and they didn't do this, and they didn't do that." All of these things are valid points, and all of these things are true. And I think EJ has a good perspective on those things as well. And we talked about those. So I'm going to get Richard's opinion on that. Going to get EJ and my man Joe's opinion on it. So without waiting too long, I know Joe was Joe's all over the place right now. The guy's on fire. So right now, Joe is actually doing a show with my man Joe Marino, and then he's going to come and join us. So instead of waiting on Joe to get in, we're actually going to bring my guy EJ in from Coldfront Report, and we're going to get this conversation started. We're gonna start off with the Julio thing, and then we're gonna transition into all the other stuff that we're gonna beat him up about. But my man EJ, what's going on with you, man? I'm glad you could last minute join me like this.
Spence, what's good? I appreciate you having me on, man.
Oh man, anytime. You already know. I mean, we talk every day now, especially since we started this league.
Oh yeah,
And so we're gonna get into that conversation, but just know, anytime, we family. So anytime you want to come on, or anytime you need me to come on, just hit me up.
I appreciate you, man. Really do.
So, but I'm gonna get started here because I was just talking about Julio. I'm sure you kind of heard some of the things that I was saying. One of the things that blows my mind right now about this whole Julio Jones conversation. Now, Grant, okay, he's in Tennessee. Good for them. Good for him. I think that it's a good move for the team, and it's a good move for him. The difference in the conversations that's going around is not, do I think it's a good move? It's, do I think he's good enough to move the needle enough to make you say Tennessee is a Super Bowl contender? What do you think? Do you think Tennessee is in that conversation now with the top four teams, or do you think they still have some things they need to improve in?
See, here's the thing. I agree with you. It is a great move for Tennessee. But the issue is their defense. Now, this is the thing about defense in its totality. And we can go right back to the Bills. You can have an average defense if your offense is top 5, 6, 7, or 8. And so now you're saying to me that you're going to have to put more on Tannehill's shoulders. And he's going to have to play close to what Josh played last year to mitigate some of the regression we'll see from that defense. Like, it hasn't been good in a while. They've been searching for a pass rusher for God knows how long. They drafted Caleb Farley, who has back issues. They drafted Christian Fulton the year before. They signed another cornerback. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they signed another cornerback. So they are trying to get it together, but I don't think the defense is going to be there enough for them to be a Super Bowl contender. They lost to the Ravens last year. Mm-hmm. On the last second, but I mean, I don't. The move that they made for Julio, I don't think that puts them ahead of the Baltimore Ravens. Their offense will probably be more explosive, as you would expect. But then another thing you got to factor in is that Julio Jones is coming off some nagging injuries, specifically a hamstring. And I don't know how many of you guys out there are athletes, but when you get a hamstring, it is tough for that thing to go away, especially when you're a bigger guy and you run a 4.3, and you have to run full speed every play. So this is all contingent on Julio actually being healthy. I like swapping Corey Davis out for Julio Jones. That most certainly is an upgrade. But then again, what Julio Jones are we getting? Are we getting the healthy Julio Jones, or are we getting the Julio Jones that got to get himself into shape? Shannon Sharp said today that he spoke to Julio actually about this, and Julio said out of his own mouth that he is healthy for the first time in a couple years. So if Julio's healthy and Tannehill can keep that consistent play up, I think they'll be there, but I just can't put them over the Ravens, and I can't put them in Super Bowl contention right now.
Oh, see, now that's interesting because now obviously the Ravens made it further. They beat them last year. So obviously in just looking at results, you would say, well, no, the Ravens are above them. I put Tennessee above them. I don't think, like, even last year, I really thought Tennessee was the better overall team. And athlete, straight football player on the football field. Like, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson. I think he's a better player, But if I'm talking about quarterback, I think in the playoffs, better quarterbacks win games. So I thought Ryan Tannehill, as a thrower of the football, as a guy who I just feel like he's a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. So I honestly did. I thought that they were going to beat them. The way the game went, obviously they ended up losing to the Ravens. The Ravens come to Buffalo. You know the story was written. But it's interesting that you can't put them above the Ravens. What do you think sets the Ravens apart?
See, it goes back to my original point. The Ravens have probably one of the best coverage units in the NFL, and that honestly was the difference. So you got so what they did in that game is they said, "Listen, we can stop Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is not going to beat us this game. We are going to sell out, and we're going to make sure Derrick Henry does not beat us." So that's what they did that first. Now you got Marcus Peters, Humphrey, who can play slot and outside, and then you got Jimmy Smith, who are all fantastic man cover corners. And so now Tannehill is forced to consistently make throw after throw. Not to say he couldn't do that. It's in that specific game he did not do it well enough to win that game. On top of them not having their running game to supplement some of that too. So there is an element they were able to take away because you remember they added Calais Campbell for a situation such as that. And so when you're able to do that, I mean, the Titans are going to have to get some stops too. And they're not able to get stops because, first of all, if they could come up against Lamar, you see how many times Lamar was running for 20-something yard gains every single time he's dropping back, and he's literally changing down in distance, and not just changing it, but altering, flipping field position every time he runs. So it's going to be tough for them to beat him. They have not done anything in this offseason that's going to say, hey, they can beat the Ravens the next time they go around.
Now, see, okay, so your points are valid. And, normally I'm like, no, man, you outlandish with this. No, your points are valid here. But the reason why I'm going to disagree with you, not because I think it's crazy, I just see it a little bit opposite. So I see it the opposite way. I think that, like I said, I think Ryan Tannehill is a better quarterback. So when I look at that and you add the weapon of Julio Jones, aside from AJ, and then you have that running game that you have, you just mentioned how the Ravens basically sold out and said, look, we're stopping Henry. He's not going to beat us. They can't do that now. You absolutely cannot do that. If you sell out to stop the run, they still have the ability to stop AJ. Like, okay, we're going to stop the run, and then we can check him, and we can kind of have some guys trying. We don't trust Tannehill to do it. Yeah. Now, there's no way possible. There's no way possible you can put 8 guys in the box if you got Julio on one side, AJ on the other. And let's not forget that they still have – it's not like those are the only 2 weapons that they have. They had a pretty decent roster. So – yeah. I don't know. I just see it as overall, it comes down to quarterback play. And I'm going to get beat up by my cousin. I'm going to get beat up by all my Ravens friends because I have friends, legitimate friends who are Ravens fans. But I really do feel like we've seen Lamar Jackson's ceiling as a passer.
You are absolutely correct in that. And they can get upset at you as they want. Go back to the Bills game, just to touch on Lamar Jackson real quick. Go back to the Bills game. The Bills played a defense that they hadn't played all year. They play the most nickel in the league. 90% of the time, the Bills play nickel. That's number 1 in the NFL. That game specifically, they played base more than half the time, meaning that they had another linebacker instead of another cornerback. And so they said, listen, we are going to stop Lamar Jackson. He is not going to get these big plays, and this is what they did. To your point, Spence, you are going to make throw after throw to beat us. And you saw what happened when Lamar was forced to make throw after throw. And that's the difference. No one's saying Lamar can't throw. We're saying that he cannot make throw after throw after throw without taking off and running. He can't stay in the pocket and beat us from the pocket. He's a good passer. He showed that his rookie year. He can pass the
and you know what?
The football.
Well, not to cut you off, because but that's the thing. Like, I want people to understand. Like, we're not saying anything negative about Lamar. Like, he's the MVP. And this is why I get ticked off, because my thing is this. Now it's like, well, get Lamar a true number 1 wide receiver and see what he does. Did he have a true number 1 wide receiver when he won MVP? Like, no. Everybody was like enamored with this kid. Like, and I was too. I wanted the Bills to draft him. I was upset that the year that we took Josh, I didn't want Josh. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted the Heisman Trophy winner, who was the new shiny, faster, younger version of Tyrod, who had a stronger arm and who wasn't scared to take. That's what I wanted. So that year, he won MVP. He didn't have to worry about none of that. Now all of a sudden, it's like he needs a true number 1 wide receiver, or he can win. I don't understand that. So before I throw that back in at you to answer, I actually want to take a quick pause. We have both my other guests in, so I want to take a chance real quick. I'm gonna bring in my co-host of the Hump Day Hotline, and he is the host of the Overreaction podcast, also on the Buffalo Rumblings podcast and YouTube networks. That's a lot to say at one time, but it's my main man, my bestie in crime, the homie Joe Miller. What's going on with you, Joe?
What's up? What's happening?
You busy, man. You got a lot going on.
Oh, aren't we all busy? I think all of us are busy. There's not enough content to go around, and Bills Mafia is consuming it like crazy, right?
Right.
It's a good thing for us.
Absolutely.
Joe, what's up, man?
Not much, EJ. How are you, bro?
Good, man. It's finally good to first see you for real, for real. We've talked on Twitter a bunch of times.
Is this the first time we've been on the show together? This can't be the first time. No.
This is the very first time. Yes, it is.
Man, Joe's busy. He's hard to book. He's really hard to book. But hey, we also got somebody else in here who I love. He's one of my favorite guys who has become a regular with the Hump Day Hotline. He's become a regular now with the Code of Conduct, and I'm sure he's in the Overreaction comments as well.
Oh, yeah.
We got my man, one of the best contributors to anything that I do, my man Richard Rush. What is going on, man?
What's going on?
Straight out of Zanesville, Ohio, east of Columbus.
Close.
Very close.
I'm only about 10 minutes away from Zanesville.
Okay. Well, listen, EJ and I were just talking about obviously the Julio Jones trade, and we were talking about the effect that Julio Jones has on that team and where they stand in the playoffs. And I mentioned that Joe kind of thinks that they're going to regress, and I said that Joe had valid reasons as to why he felt that they were going to regress. So, Joe, why don't you take this moment real quick and kind of just tell us why you think, even with the Julio Jones trade, you're still not necessarily afraid of the Tennessee Titans?
There's just a great deal of doubt and concern on that defense, in my opinion. Yes, Julio Jones is Julio Jones. I'm not, you and I talked about it, whether it was last week or the week before or both. Like, literally, Julio Jones can be in the argument and conversation of being the best wide receiver in the NFL. There's nobody that's going to be like, I don't know. No, Julio Jones is right there. Right there. Yeah. So even with adding him, I mean, them losing Corey Davis, I just don't know that Julio is going to bring that much more to the table that losing Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith is going to make up for. Not to mention the fact that this is just me. I'm not a Ryan Tannehill believer. Like, to me, I'm not sold on Ryan Tannehill. So King Henry is the man, but between Tannehill and that defense, I'm just not there, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Why am I not sold?
Hold on real quick. It makes perfect sense that you're not sold or that you don't view it that way. But Titans fans will say, hey, last couple years, I mean, he's looked completely different since he's not being coached by Adam Gase, and he has better numbers and he has this. My argument to that is what I said to you in the chat. And I think that's kind of where EJ was about to go. I feel that obviously, yeah, you got Derrick Henry behind you. It's going to be tough to not have better numbers. But
sure.
We were just talking to EJ and I were talking about the comparison between now Tannehill and Lamar Jackson, because we were talking about how Lamar Jackson, EJ didn't put the Ravens, or he didn't put the Titans, even with this move, over the Ravens now. Last year, the Titans lost to the Ravens in the playoffs. We know the story was written, but
yep.
I thought the Titans were going to beat them because I think they have a better quarterback. How do you see that? And then after that, then we'll let EJ throw that challenge out.
They're different quarterbacks. Better. I don't know. Ryan, there's always all those fun things on Twitter that we get to see, and everybody that gets dropped, and we all get to debate. You know, if you gotta get down the field in 30 seconds, which quarterback do you want? There ain't anybody in this panel picking Ryan Tannehill, right? I would probably take, if I had a minute and a half to play and I'm down by 4, I'm probably taking Lamar Jackson before I'm taking Ryan Tannehill. For me, in that football game, I would tell you I was probably surprised as well that the Titans did not beat the Ravens. But at the end of the day, I watched that football game. It was exactly what I said. It was the Titans defense that led up. They just did not have an answer for that Ravens football team.
Yeah. EJ, what was the question you were going to throw out there at Joe?
I was going to say, why is he not sold on Tannehill? Because just to throw this out here, and I've been saying this all day. Matter of fact, I've been saying this for the past 2 days. Tannehill's been just as consistent as Josh has. I mean, look at the last time. Look at when Tannehill got under center, and look at the success the Titans had. Now, I've said this all the time. The Titans have had Derrick Henry for a while, since Mariota was there. Derrick Henry has been like dominant since Mariota's been under center. He's been really good for a long time if you really sit and think about it, right? So they only changed pretty much they got A.J. Brown, but they changed pretty much one thing. It was a quarterback. So my question to you is,
Sure.
how can you ignore the fact that with that big drastic change that the team didn't get better after he was put in, and how are you not sold? When he was inserted in there, they went to the AFC Championship game. That is not by accident. You know, I mean, Tannehill is able to take advantage of those play action deep shots that Mariota was not able to do. And when you're able to get 20-plus yard plays down the field, that definitely alters your offense, you know, greatly. So you can have a dominant running game, and that's cool, but it's the 20-plus yard plays that he added that put them over the top. So I don't understand how you aren't sold when he's did this for like upwards of like 2 to 3 years now.
Well, it's been 2. It hasn't been 3. It's been 2.
Okay.
It's actually been 1.5. So it actually hasn't even been a full 2. Not to mention the fact that you're talking to say that Ryan Tannehill came in and took over for Marcus Mariota proves that Tannehill is good. It's more about the fact that Mariota is that bad. Marcus Mariota is not a good quarterback at all in the NFL. Like,
I'll agree with that. Absolutely.
At all. So putting in a guy that's serviceable, a game manager, not to mention the fact that we've seen this. Bills fans have seen this scenario play out on our football team many times. So as much as I loved the Kyle Orton era, I'm not necessarily going to believe and like get convinced or have Bills Mafia convinced that Kyle Orton was great because he took over for EJ and took the Bills to a 9-7 record. That doesn't mean that Kyle Orton was a good football player. It just means that he was a whole lot better than EJ was at the time, right?
Joe always has to find a way to sneak in something about
Kyle.
He just loves Kyle Orton, man. He loves him. Hey, so Rich, we got you on here, man. So why don't you tell me, like, same thing? How do you view Tannehill in this conversation, man? Because some people in the league right now really do look at this move, bringing Julio Jones there, as a power shifting move. And if you got a quarterback that can put that thing out there, and if your offense can go from a run first to a high powered pass with a heavy run, some people think they might be unstoppable on offense. How do you view it?
I don't think it's so much about, well, it has a lot to do with Tannehill, but it has more to do with what they are lacking on defense, what they've lost on defense from last year, and their uncertainty at their corners. They got worse up front, losing a couple players. Tannehill, I mean, everybody's going to be better with Julio Jones just because he's that good.
Fair.
But
Fair.
Tannehill, I see Tannehill more as like you do a game manager than a high offense powerhouse. He's just a facilitator. He's not a game changer.
So in the grand scheme of things, if you're going to look at, so obviously there are 32 starting positions or 32 starting jobs for the position of quarterback in the NFL. Where would you put Tannehill? Is he like middle of the pack for you? Is he top 10? Is he like, where are you throwing Tannehill?
I would have Tannehill about middle of the pack. He might be somewhere between 12 and 14.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair.
I think that's fair.
And it sounds like EJ and Joe, it sounds like both of them agree with you there.
He's a top 15 quarterback, and you can go to the Super Bowl with a top 15 quarterback.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
They went. The Niners went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G, who's a top 15 quarterback that year.
Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl ring. Brad Johnson has a Super Bowl ring. Doug Williams has a Super Bowl. Mark Rippon has a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
And
great defenses.
Bruce and I was just going to say, Bruce and I are going to debate this in the future. We got a show coming up about this exact topic, because I'm one to believe that you can win a Super Bowl with a average to less than average quarterback if you have a dominant defense. You can have a very, very, very no, you can. We've seen it. You just made that face. I'm not saying you can consistently do it and you should build your franchise that way, but what I'm saying is I've seen great quarterbacks consistently be great every year and not have defenses and not have what it takes in the playoffs.
Aaron Rodgers.
But I've seen Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning. We've seen this story play out multiple times. Now you see a quarterback that's also accompanied by a very good defense. They tend to do well. Tom Brady always had a good defense in New England. It was very rare that he didn't have a defense to accompany him. It consistently good defense, good quarterback. It kind of makes sense. But I don't want to get into me and Bruce's topic. So let's transition because we got a whole show, literally like a whole week. Joe would tell you, me and Bruce, like we debated that thing for like a whole day. We were in the chat and I'm like, no, what is it? So
I was.
Let's transition.
Like, I'm not even going to respond to this.
Yeah, he's like, I want no parts of this. So, but let's do this now because in the chat earlier, so in the fantasy chat that EJ and I are in, EJ basically made a comment that Tannehill, that we were talking about Tannehill, and he's like, man, he's just as consistent, if not more consistent than Josh, blah, 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 blah. We got talking. Then he was like, Josh ain't even top 5. He's 6 in the league. And I said, what the
say it.
I said, what are you I said, what are you talking about? So it got wild in the chat. And I said, you know what? Forget that. I said, I'm gonna get you live on air. Let's get on this. So he decided to jump in. So before we get to yelling at EJ, I'm going to go around. I'm going to go around in a circle and ask everybody. We'll start with EJ because he actually he said Josh was 6, so we're going to ask his top 5. Then we're going to ask Joe and then Rich, and then we'll get into the debate of it. So EJ, hit up.
So my top 5 starts with, okay, this is controversial. All right, and I know you guys are going to hate this. I personally do not think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. That's just me personally, due to the fact that his situation is just it's mess up proof. You can't mess up the situation that he has. I don't think he's the best quarterback in the league. I personally
Did you see Joe leave on you? Did you see Joe leave on you?
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. I think me personally, I think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league. But you asked me my top 5, so I'm not gonna.
No, I'm with you.
Okay,
I'm with you.
So it's Aaron Rodgers. Mahomes is in there. It's Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady, Watson, and Russ. Those are my top 5 quarterbacks. And I will tell you why Josh is not in the top 5. The reason Josh is not in the top 5, because number one, if you're telling me that Josh can be in the top 5 after one high-end year of production, then if that's the case, let's put Justin Herbert in the top 5 then. If you only need 1 year of good production,
I think all production is not created equal. And I'm sorry to cut you off because this is your moment to tell me your top 5.
Ryan Tannehill agrees with that statement.
Right. Like, so, I mean, it's just like, I don't think, so when you're talking about a statistical year, if we're talking about just being a good quarterback and like you can throw numbers up, hell, let's throw Baker in there. And we know how I feel about bum ass Baker. Like, let's throw Baker in there. I don't think he's a top quarterback. I don't like Baker. There are years that Ryan Fitzpatrick puts numbers up. Nobody ever says Ryan Fitzpatrick is a top 10 quarterback. But there are years that when you look at the beginning parts of the season, he is right. His statistics look just like Patrick Mahomes. He's throwing 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to just look at the stats and say that. There's a clear eye test that Josh Allen passes when you watch him play football.
Okay, so if we're strictly going off eye test, here's the one that Bills Mafia always gives me. Oh, well, he's leaps and bounds better than Brady. So there's two different questions that there is many Bills Mafia who think Brady should not be in the top 5.
We don't claim them. Okay.
I was just about to say because
we don't claim them.
This isn't Twitter troll panel. This is
okay. I appreciate it. I appreciate it because I would like to talk to some real football fans because I mean I can list Brady's stats and I can list a 1,000 reasons as to why he should be over the top 5 than Josh. But this is the reason why I won't put Josh. Just my singular reason why I don't put Josh in the top 5. Josh has the most talent at quarterback in the league currently. I think that's unquestioned. Where he lacks, we know he can make every throw, whatever physical tools you want to throw out there, he has it. Where he lacks is that mental capability, specifically with down and distance and situation. He does not excel at it. He's got better at it, but he does not excel at it. And there was a play in the playoffs against the Colts where he did that, and it almost cost them against the Colts because the Colts had the opportunity to come back and score a touchdown. They had got a sack or something at the end of one of those drives, and he got them out of field goal range. When you're playing the better teams, that is something that you cannot do. Mahomes does the same thing where he tries to stiff arm 5 people, and he go way, way back. You remember that play against Miami that Mahomes made? Josh made a similar play that Mahomes did. And when you're playing the Colts, when you're playing the Bucks, when you're playing the Chiefs, that stuff cannot persist, and he does stuff like that consistently. He gets out of it because when it's 2nd and 13 or 3rd and 15, he has legs where he can make a lot of off-platform and off-schedule throws. And that's what you guys love about Josh Allen. But when he's playing the better teams, that stuff won't fly. And that is the aspect of his game that he has not honed yet. Can he be patient? Can he play that dink and dunk game like Brady can? When they're playing cover 3 all game, cover 4 all game, and you can't just push it down the field, and you just got to pick first down after first down after first down, get the running game going. Can he be patient like that?
He did that in 2020.
Joe, I was getting there. You gotta let me get there. I was gonna say he showed that he can do that, but the mental part of his game, in terms of situationally and down and distance specifically, is where he lacks. And if I have to take Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Russ, and Deshaun in those tight moment situations, I feel great. But if I have to get Josh in those tight moment situations where he has to make these smarter decisions, I'm not as confident with those other 5 guys. And that is the degree of separation that puts those guys over him.
You want to go, Joe?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, EJ. That was great. There was a lot to unpack there. But
absolutely,
as much as I agree with you about Rodgers and I agree with you about Mahomes and I agree with you about Brady and their situational awareness, Russ has a huge tendency to not succeed in those moments either.
You are absolutely right, Joe.
But Russ made your top 5.
He did make my top. You know why? Because Russ been the best deep ball thrower since he's been in the league.
That's
since
great.
He's been starting. Excuse me.
That's great.
That's awesome.
That's
it's about
great.
20+ yard plays, and there's nobody better than Russ.
But I don't. Well, it depends. He's probably there's nobody better than Russ at a 35+ yard throw. Josh Allen is probably the best 20+. Right. So that deep to intermediate pass, 20 to 40 yards, Josh is lights out. Russ is better with the rainbows. Everybody's going to agree with that. Russ throws a beautiful rainbow. I don't think it's fair to say that he's situationally unaware. Like, oh my gosh, I forgot that it was 3rd and 7 and like we're down by 4 and then takes a giant sack. I don't think that that's fair to say about Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes. I think it's more about trying to do too much. And if you listen to any of his press conferences so far this offseason, he's talked widely about the things that he has to fix and the plays that he's watched back that makes him cringe because he could have done better. It's hard to judge a kid and say that he's not a top 5 quarterback because of one play during a Colts game that Spence and I were at, by the way, which he actually won that football game for that football team. Josh was very much the reason that the Buffalo Bills won that football game. So if you're going to say, well, there was that one play where he took a bad sack, got him out of field goal range, and they could have lost.
Wait, it's not just that one play. That's the thing. It's not just one play. There's a consistency.
You referenced the Colts game.
I referenced it as a play that you can watch of what the example of what I'm talking about.
Sure, no, it's there, but I don't think it's situational unawareness. I don't think he's unaware of the situation. Like,
no, I wouldn't say he's unaware of the situation, but he doesn't excel as much as these top 5 quarterbacks. Russ aside, that I would like to see out of a top 5.
That's fair. I would say that's fair. If I've got a top 5 and Josh Allen's in it over any of those guys, it's probably due to potential. And oh, by the way, Justin Herbert is in my top 10. To your point about stats, if stats are important,
we're top 10, but we're going 5.
I know. I'm just saying, like Justin Herbert. To your point about if stats make a good quarterback, Justin Herbert showed more than just stats. He passed the eye test. That kid is going to be a great football player. And oh, by the way, so is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is also going to be a stud in the NFL for a very long time.
Didn't I say Joe Burrow in the chat?
You did.
Did I not say? Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. I wasn't in the chat.
No, he did. And I mean, if we're going top 10, I mean, like a lot of this conversation changes because, earlier, like I'm like, no, what do you mean? It's not this, it's not that. If we're going 10, then obviously I can fit certain people in this conversation, and I'm not going to have an issue with it. Well, Joe, did you give your 5?
No, I like EJ's list. I can give you mine. My number 1 is Pat Mahomes. And as much as I love Aaron Rodgers, they're very different style of players, in my opinion. Yes, they can do similar things, but they're not exact. It's funny because when you consider Pat Mahomes and you consider Aaron Rodgers, you give Allen a couple more years, he kind of stylistically, talent-wise, is maybe between them. Not ranked-wise, but like what he does, he's got a splash of Mahomes and he's got a splash of Rodgers, which is kind of cool. But Mahomes was, for me, number 1, basically because of what he's been doing in the NFL, even with him, in my opinion, having some difficulties in 2020, to which a lot of the pundits were like, well, he wasn't playing good because he didn't have to play good. And I don't ascribe to that at all. Like, he had some stinkers against the Dolphins and the Raiders and some other games. Pat Mahomes, to me, right now is the standard in the NFL. all the talent in the world, and probably due to his age. Aaron Rodgers, number 2 for me. I have Josh Allen at number 3. When I look at what Josh Allen does and what he's capable of in 2021, there's a lot of potential that I'm going to put on Josh Allen. Tom Brady, 4, to your point, EJ. I could flip those two. I'm not telling you that Josh Allen is like light years ahead of Tom Brady. Tom Brady is still the GOAT, and he still has Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and he's got Antonio Brown down there playing football with him. He's still got a team around him. 5 for me, this is probably going to be the surprise. Sheer volume, Dak Prescott. And that's literally stat monster. Sheer volume.
Do not
Sheer
hate that
volume.
at all.
Yep. That's my 5.
Yeah, I can't be mad at actually. So in the chat that that EJ and I are referencing, there's a guy who actually mentioned Dak. He brought Dak up, and I said that just like I just said a couple seconds ago. To me, not top 5, top 7, absolutely. Like I feel like he's right on that cusp.
Yeah.
I just can't quite put him over. For instance, like you didn't put him over like Rush. You didn't put him over. So there's certain guys you didn't put him over.
I did.
I'm just
Russ is 6 for me. Russ is 6 for me.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. You put him over, like, and I'm saying for me, there's certain guys like Russ. I still, and maybe it's just like I'm holding on to something that I think Russ is, and because both of you are absolutely 100% correct. There's a bunch of big moments that Russ just, it seems like he's not the guy that we watch every Sunday or every Monday night, and like it's just a completely different thing now when he gets to the playoffs. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's I don't know. He has talent around him now. I'm not gonna give him the excuse that he has talent. He got to put it together. Where you at, Rich? What you think? Top 5?
My top 5, I have Mahomes number 1. I have Rodgers number 2. And I have Josh Allen number 3.
My guy.
I have Deshaun Watson number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Even though all off the field stuff aside,
for sure,
still what he's done down there. And I have Brady number 5. I'm not saying Brady isn't, just because you don't have him number 1, 2, or 3 doesn't mean he's not the greatest of all time. And it still hurts to say that.
That does hurt to say.
It does a lot. I mean, Dak Prescott's in my top 10. In my top 10, I think I have him 8th because number 6 would be Jackson, and number 7 would trying to remember who was Russell Wilson, which you could probably put Russell Wilson at number 6 and flip flop 6 and 7, but that's pretty much where I stand.
Yeah, and that's it's a super respectable list. So my list is actually very similar to yours, except y'all are gonna yell at me because everybody put Brady in that list and I didn't. And it's not because, going to what Richard said, it's not that I don't think he's not the GOAT. I think he's the GOAT, but right now I think the age that he is, and I know he's been performing, so I can't act like he just, like last year he didn't win the Super Bowl and he didn't. I just feel like now there are certain limitations, and because he's so smart, because he's such a great, like he's just an amazingly gifted quarterback in right now it's mental though. Like right now he's at that Kobe Bryant level to where like he's an assassin mentally, and which is a good thing to see. But and that's part of the game. So I understand where you're probably going to come back, EJ, and like, well, that's part. I understand that, and you because that was part of the reason why you didn't put Josh up.
Oh yeah,
there.
I'm ready.
So
I'm ready to ask my question, but
I get it. I get it. But it's certain throws. Like when I'm talking about when I'm ranking my quarterbacks right now, I'm actually talking about ability. Like, can you make that throw? There's not many guys in the league that can do the things that Josh can do. There's not many guys in the league that can do what Aaron Rodgers is my number 1. I think everybody knows that without having to guess it. Then I'm going Patrick Mahomes. I am going to go earlier in the chat. I said Josh at 3. I am going to go Deshaun Watson at 3. Me and you personally. Me and you go back. We go back about Deshaun and Josh often. The thing about Deshaun that same thing like Rush said, that pending his off-field issues, when you watch Deshaun Watson play, there's a certain, even as a young player, he had a certain calmness about him that it's a real special thing to watch, man. He's cold-blooded, and it's something that you just don't see often in young players. Like a lot of times it takes guys to develop. Like now we're hoping that this is the year that Josh, he puts it all together in between here. Like that's what we're hoping for this year. Deshaun, it just seems like he had that the year he came into the league. Like, you know, he's getting kicked in the eye and still like finding ways to throw touchdowns or first downs in that play. Not that Josh doesn't, but then I'm going Josh at 4 for the same reasons. But I think Josh, if he takes that step this year, he'll pass him up. And then I'm still going Russ. Like I said, I think that Russ he does things that I don't know. I just think he's amazing, man. But when people say Brady, I can't be mad at it because he is the GOAT. He is. I just personally don't put him there because of the limitations with certain throws. But the guy is amazing. The guy's amazing.
So that's exactly where I want to go with that. So you're saying Brady has limitations, right? But Brady had the most 20+ yard throws this year, though. And so what limitations does he have?
Hold on. Because I know you watch football just like I do. Mm-hmm. I know you do. 20-yard plays doesn't always mean 20-yard throws. So because I had to argue with some Cleveland fans too. They're like, Baker Mayfield has the longest recorded pass in the history of the NFL. Yeah, but he didn't throw it the longest recorded distance in the NFL. Like it's like just because he has multiple 20, and I'm not saying Tom Brady can't throw it 20 yards. He can.
Right.
Tom Brady does not have that zip that we're talking about with the 5 guys I just mentioned. He just doesn't.
So you're not putting him in the top 5 because he don't have zip on the ball like he used to, is what you're saying.
Right. If we were having this conversation 5 years ago, you would not hear me say this about Tom. Tom would be there. I don't think right now he has the arm talent to be in this conversation. I think if we're talking about GOAT, we're talking about greatest of all time for several different reasons and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm not that dumb, man. Come on.
Yeah, nah. I'm just a little confused. I don't want to be the antagonist on the panel. I'm just saying it's not like I get what you were saying. You're saying that he's completing 20+ yard passes, but he's not traveling 20+ yards. That's what you're saying. And I am pushing back on that because he had the second most yards on 20+ yards throws either. Also, excuse me. So I don't get where you say he has limitations. He's throwing that 15-yard comeback in the Super Bowl to Antonio Diggs with zip. It wasn't the most accurate pass, but it was catchable. I'm just trying to see where y'all are coming from because Tom Brady had one of his best years of his career. Actually,
you're saying it's not the most accurate pass, but it was catchable. That's part of this conversation. You can't be the best quarterback if it's not that accurate. Like if it's catchable, yeah, everything is catchable to Mike Evans. Everything is catchable when you have Antonio Brown as your number 3 wide receiver.
Hang on, EJ's right. He had the best. He had probably his best, one of his best seasons, if not the best season he's ever had. He also had better weapons than he's ever had. Ever had.
With the exception of Randy Moss, this collection of receivers was the best collection of talent he's ever had. It's very easy to throw 15-yard comebacks to Mike Evans and Antonio Brown and these players. Like, dude, you're acting like he was throwing to Kelvin Benjamin. Like, come on, you're acting like that's who he was throwing to. That's not what's going on.
Zay Jones.
All I'm saying is that he was able to get the throws there. I will agree with you, Spence, and say the same zip is not on the ball, but he is still getting it done, and the numbers also back that up, while also protecting the ball better than he's ever had in his career also. So, and then on top of that, Bruce Arians' system causes him to throw. He had 91 deep attempts this year, and Josh was second with 78. And he still protected the ball better than Josh. So I don't see your reasoning here to say that he's lost a step. He's still completing because we know that when you throw deep routes and you throw deep throws, it's more about timing than it actually is your arm strength. You have to be on the same timing with the route and with your throw. And Brady has shown that he still has that accuracy down the field. So where is his limitations is what I'm saying. The zip thing, okay, I'll agree with you, but he's still completing the passes is my point.
I'm with you. He is. And like I said, and I'm not, it sucks because the positive turns into a negative. What I'm saying is like you get the best roster you've ever had in your life. And just a little bit, it makes me be like, well, is that like that 25-yard play that you're talking about? Is that him or is that Mike Evans? Because I feel like there's certain throws I can make that Mike Evans will catch and make me look good. You know what I mean? And so like there's certain players and Brady had 3 of those guys on his roster. Chris Godwin is not anything to just like ignore. Antonio Brown being your number 3 wide receiver is nothing to ignore. So I'm just like, I'm not hating on Brady. Like I said, I put him top, of course, but I just like right now in the top 5 in the league, I just don't. But all of your points are valid, every single one of them.
It's just if your reasoning is that because he doesn't have the zip on the ball is to keep him out of the top 5. I just don't think that's a strong reason when he's shown that he can get it done just as good as these younger guys down the field. So why am I keeping him out of the top 5 if he's still producing down the field and making those big chunk plays in an offense that he has not played in, and with a shortened off season? Also, like I'm not gonna hold that against him, the zip thing, because it's more about timing than it is zip.
And like I said, I just said I'm not going to say that it's not a valid point. The reason why it's a thing for me is because I know how the game is played today. Bruce will tell you again, I don't even like the philosophy of football the way it's played today. So, like the whole, for me, I'm the guy, you have a good to great quarterback, but you have good defense and you want to control the clock. That's me. We're going out of style. We're extinct. I get it. Like running ball, control the clock is going out of style. That's my type of thing. But with the way the game is played today, yeah, Tom Brady won the Super Bowl, so it's going to sound dumb for me to be like, that's not the kind of quarterback you want, because he won the Super Bowl. He won the most. But right now, if you were to tell me that there are people there are GMs in the NFL who would take Tom Brady for 1 year before they take Patrick Mahomes for 1 year, I would not believe you, even though it's Tom Brady. I feel like last year, if Tampa had the opportunity, instead of it being Tom Brady and they could have Mahomes for a year, it would have been Mahomes. I think every single team in the league, if choosing between not Josh Allen, because I think Buffalo is not, I think we're straight. Honestly, I think there are 4 teams that wouldn't make a move for quarterback, even if it was Patrick Mahomes. But I think any other team that doesn't have those 4 guys, like Herbert, Allen, Mahomes, like certain guys, outside of that, every team would take Mahomes before they would even sniff at Tom Brady for 1 year. And if you're going to tell me I'm wrong with that, man, we can just end the show.
No, I mean, I won't argue on that point. My only point that I was contesting you on is the fact that you're keeping him out of the top 5. Based on the way he played, in the totality of his whole season, he should be in the top 5, no question. Based on the way he played and based on 2020 alone, he should be in everyone's top 5. But everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm just saying his numbers, his statistics, eye test, Super Bowl say he should be in the top 5.
Well, and that's what I just said. Like, I know it sounds crazy me saying like that ain't the type of quarterback. He just won the Super Bowl.
Right.
My man Jason Taylor was saying in 2009 Brady had crap receivers and still played as a top tier QB. But now because he's better in 2020, he's not as good. I'm not saying he's not as good. Like, I'm not saying he's not good. I'm not saying he's bad. To be 6, 7, or 8 in the league at a position is not bad. Like, if you have top 10, I'm gonna put it like this: if you had 2 top 10 cornerbacks on your team, I guarantee you have the best defense in the league, unless another team has the top 1 and 2 cornerbacks in the league. I'm not saying Brady's bad by being 6. You can do a lot with a top 6 quarterback in the league. I'm just saying he's not top 5.
Here's the thing. This is a quarterback-driven league, and there are so many good quarterbacks in the NFL that from number 5 to number 10 could flip-flop in any 3-game stretch. So, I mean, the top 10, I think, is, well,
solid point.
Number 1, 2, and 3 are above the rest, in my opinion. And then 4 through 10 are so close that, I mean, it could go either way in any of them. The beginning of the year, Russell Wilson would be number 3, number 4. The last, 3-4 years, Russell Wilson has faded toward the end and fallen apart in the playoffs. So it's hard to put him in the top 5 for me when we're coming up on a 17-game season and he's got an extra game and he's fading in a 16-game season with arguably the most talented wide receiver in the league, at least wise, the most physically gifted anyway. So,
hot take for Richard Rush.
That's just DK Metcalf is, I mean, I didn't think he was going to be as good as he was. I seen him as David Boston. David Boston was just just so jacked up and was fast, but couldn't hold up. And so far, DK has proven me wrong 110%.
You know what? That's a good bringing that up. So during the draft, when that year when he was drafted, obviously the Buffalo Bills in the second round that year took Cody Ford, and DK Metcalf was available. I was pissed off. What is it that made you think? Because at the time, obviously I didn't watch a ton of college, but I was looking at receivers because at the time it was like, hey, this year we want to upgrade from Kelvin Benjamin. We want to upgrade from Zay Jones. So like I was looking at receivers, and you watch those Ole Miss games, man, and I'm gonna just tell you, DK Metcalf looked he didn't have a ton of highlight. He didn't have a ton of plays that made him look like it, but when he did, he just looked next level. So what is it that made you look at him at that point and say, nah, I'm cool not going for him?
I just seen him as a workout warrior. I didn't see him as I mean, I knew he could catch the ball, but I didn't know he could catch the ball as well. I seen a lot of his highlights, but there was also they had a really strong number one and number two was really strong at Ole Miss at the time. So I honestly, which was a really bad take, I thought Zay Jones was going to be as good as DK a round later. And we found out that was 100% wrong as well. So
Zay had he had all the intangibles to be good. I remember watching him in college, and it was like in college, anything that went this kid's way, he was catching it. He didn't drop a thing in college. I don't know what happened to him when he, got to the professional level. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know if there was off-field things that kind of mentally was working with him. I don't know. But Zay Jones was a completely different player when he got into the league. Completely different player.
He cracked under pressure. When he dropped that touchdown pass, he fell apart, and he was nothing more than a 50% pass catching receiver. And if you can only catch 50% of the balls, I mean, that's not good. That's not good at all.
And to Richard's point too about DK Metcalf, coming out of Ole Miss, he was one of the knocks on him was the fact that he couldn't get in and out of routes. And you saw that the first year in the league where, he was doing a comeback route or doing a hitch route, and it'd take him like 6 steps to come back downhill. And I remember Daniel Jeremiah was saying that kid may need to put the weights down and get in the yoga mat because he can't get in and out of routes, and he had very tight hips. But, and to your point too, Richard, DK Metcalf, since he's been in the league, has the most deep drops in the league too. So there's also that also. So DK Metcalf had to have some time to grow and to develop. Like, just going downfield, yeah, he's cool. He runs a 4.3, so he should be doing that. But, DK Metcalf, people don't know, he's come a long way in like 2 years. Like he's come a very long way. He does not take 6 steps to get out of his routes now. He's way better at that. And that's a big thing with wide receivers, just not to go on a tangent because wide receiver is my passion.
Well, no, because I was actually, I was just about to ask Joe because so same thing. We're talking about DK and you're saying that. I don't, he has developed and he has come a long way. But I guess my question for that is, it's like when you look at him, why is it that we write these guys off the way we do? Like, so this question is for Joe. It's like, hey, he didn't grade out well. He didn't do this well. I did the same thing this year with Greg Rousseau. I'm like, no, he took the year off and he didn't do well at the combine. Why do we write these guys off instead of like really giving these guys this chance? We'll do it for a quarterback. Josh is like, no, 3 years we got. Yeah. But for other talent, we won't do it.
I don't have the answer. DK Metcalf for me, I bought the hype. So I bought all the negative draft hype. That's why I effectively did not want DK at the time. I just bought into just the negatives that everybody was talking about, to EJ's point. So I don't have an answer to why we write these guys off, other than the fact that there's certain positions that are supposed to be immediate impacts. Wide receiver is one of them. It shouldn't take a wide receiver 4 to 5 years to develop. It should be Gabriel Davis. I can see it. Rookie year. If not, Justin Jefferson. I can see it. Rookie year. So I think it's just it's a positional thing. But interestingly enough, I wanted to ask EJ this question. So DK has developed. It has been fun to watch. It's been tremendous. And he looks, when I test, he looks like Terrell Owens. Like he has that same body composition.
No,
I'm not saying he's T.O., but he looks like T.O. on the football field. Is he a top 5 wide receiver in your opinion?
Joe, that's tough, man. Top 5. See, this is a big thing for me.
It's a trick question. Answer appropriately.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. He's not in my top 5. This is why he's not in my top 5.
Good answer.
Because number one, it took him a minute to get to where he is. I understand he's been in the league for 2 years now. I think he's been in the league for 2 years. He needed some development. His routes still aren't crisp. Every guy that I have in my top 5, their routes are crisp.
Yep.
They catch the ball. You don't have to worry about it. With DK, he is stupid athletic, stupid talented. He has all the traits, right? But the guys that are in the top 5, they aren't as athletic as DK. But when you can get in and out of your routes efficiently, that makes you fast. And all those guys, Diggs, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, all these guys can get in and out of their routes so quick. So they're about as fast as DK running routes as DK is going straight line. And that's where you see DK excel at. Michael Thomas too. I mean, these guys, DK can burn anybody straight line, but he still has to show me that he can run a route as good as Diggs or run a route as good as Devontae, and he has not shown me that yet. But he is very talented, but he isn't as good as those top 5 guys. And Tyreek Hill too. I don't want to throw him out there.
I appreciate your consistency, my friend.
Oh yeah, man. Wide receiver is my thing, man.
I'm interested to see Michael Thomas this year, though, because it's tough. Like, there's a lot of times that obviously he kind of gets grouped into that top 5 conversation. And there has been limitations for him at quarterback. So we haven't really been able to see everything that he can do. Like, is he just a short, like, is he just like the guy with perfect hands and then he makes things out of nothing? Is he a guy that can stretch the field? Like, what can we really see from him? So I'm looking forward to seeing this year with Jameis. I think Jameis is going to have a breakout year. And I know you just recently traded for him after not wanting to trade for him.
Reluctantly traded for him. Because we got.
You really don't think he's going to improve?
No, this is my thing. I am scared for Taysom Hill. They are gonna have to incorporate him in that offense wherever, some way, somehow. And I don't know whether it's giving him snaps at quarterback in a wildcat, giving him snaps at quarterback to throw. I don't know what it is because they have to have a totally different offense right now. Michael Thomas was a guy that was pumped 143 targets in a season. That is crazy to even sit and think about. And that was just the regular season. He was pumped that many targets. So are you going to have the offense go that way? Where you going to have Michael Thomas featured as your number 1 and it's just everybody else? Or are you going to have this type of offense where Sean Payton is capable of making a thing where it's, Taysom Hill here, Jameis here, some spots here and there? I don't know. That's why I don't want Jameis because that uncertainty bothers me.
All honesty, I can see it going both ways. Like, I could see, obviously there'll be, I think maybe 4 or 5 plays where they do that, where like they try to trick them and put Taysom in there with, like there are going to be plays that they try to do some trick things. But even if they give him those 4 or 5 snaps at that, I think they're going to air this thing out. Like that's the type of quarterback Jameis is. He's starting this year, man. Like I feel you. I completely understand. I was upset that I couldn't get that trade. I wanted Jameis on my roster. The contract was right. The time was right. You know what I mean? Like a year, a quarterback to sit in that place for a year. Dude, I promise you, I'm jealous of that move. That's the only move that you made this year that I was like, man, I wish I could have did.
Not for nothing. Stephon Diggs had 166 targets last year.
But that's including playoffs, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. You sure? That's including
16 game season. So 16 games, 166 and 16 games.
Did you say who your top wide receiver was?
My number 1 wide receiver is me or Joe?
We can start with EJ and hit Joe.
I think number 1 unbiased top receiver has got to be Devontae Adams. He has the most red zone touchdowns in the league in the last 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. No one runs routes like him. He's not fast, but somehow he just always gets open. If Jordan Love is the quarterback of the Packers, Devontae Adams is still going to be a top receiver in the league. That's how good he is.
I feel like I agree. Well, I don't put him 1. I put DeAndre Hopkins 1, but kind of for the same reason. I feel like obviously we saw the years with him with Watson, but there were years that he didn't have Watson and he was still doing what he was doing. Right. Joe, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know that I have an answer. I think the wide receiver position is varied and different, and guys are different and have different styles and play differently, and they run different routes and have different route trees. It's hard for me to justify Hopkins over Devontae Adams over Michael Thomas over Julio Jones, right? I mean, the four guys, and then you can just toss in Stephon Diggs, who showed the league last year that, like, no, he deserves to be in that conversation coming out of Minnesota, where he was considered to be a diva and a crybaby and didn't, quote unquote, produce his last season. I don't know that it's hard because they all bring something different to the table. They all
I hate that label too.
Yeah, they all bring
diva
something.
label.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah.
None of them are Jerry Rice.
No, none of them
True.
are Jerry Rice.
No one's Jerry Rice. That's why he's the GOAT. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
No
None of
one's
them are
Jerry
Tim
Rice,
Brown.
But there's a few of them that, like, you know, there's a few of these guys that I feel like if they had the career as far as the consistency with a great quarterback the way Jerry did, I don't know, man. If you give, because for instance, like we were talking about Julio at the top of this, if you give Julio Aaron Rodgers for his entire career, oh man, like look at the numbers that he's doing. And I'm not saying because Matt Ryan is good. He's a very good quarterback. Like statistically, he'll go down as a top guy all the time. But we all know he doesn't have the same type of arm talent as some of these top quarterbacks that we talk about. He never has. Mentally, he's there. He's super smart with the ball. He has some touch, but he's not the guy that's like out there just slinging it like that. You put Julio with Aaron Rodgers for 15 years and tell me Julio doesn't have a better career than, or you tell me a few years back that, and I know he's not in the league now, but tell me put Megatron with a quarterback like that.
You know, you and I have had this conversation.
Yeah,
there was an aspect, I don't remember when it was or what we were talking about, but I was leaning towards the side of Aaron Rodgers has made wide receivers who they are. Randall Cobb. There's a lot of guys that he has made. And if I'm tipping away from Devontae Adams, that's the only reason. Because Aaron Rodgers, it's not just one guy. It's not just two guys. It's not just three guys. It's like 6 or 7 guys including tight ends, that Aaron Rodgers has made great players. So if I'm tipping away from Devontae Adams, that's the only potential reason towards Julio or DeAndre Hopkins or somebody like that. But Devontae Adams is great. Well,
I agree because I don't think Robert Tonyan? How you say it?
Tonyan,
I don't think he's going to be great this year. Like if Aaron's I'm saying if Aaron's not there and Jordan Love is there, I don't think he's going to put those same numbers. Like right now, he's being projected as probably like tight end 4. I don't think if Aaron Rodgers isn't that quarterback, I don't have him as tight end 4.
I don't know, Spence. Listen, I follow George Kittle on Instagram. I'm getting to the Robert Tonyan. George Kittle has a trainer that trains tight ends and wide receivers coming out of college. George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, and Robert Tonyan all work out together in the offseason.
And Dawson Knox.
I was about to say Dawson Knox does as well.
They work out with J-Ho Elite. Do they work? Yep. I haven't seen him on any of his videos, but they all have the same trainer. So I don't know if I could get with you on that.
Okay. Let me do this. So Josh Allen every summer trains with the quarterback's coach. Sam Darnold also is there.
I know.
There's a bunch of guys who are also there who did not take the jump.
Drew Lock is one of them. I think Drew Lock is one of them.
Drew Lock is also there, and Drew Lock's job is in jeopardy.
And the other Allen.
We can go down that Sam Darnold rabbit hole if y'all willing to go down that Sam Darnold rabbit hole. Y'all are diehard Bills fans, all three of y'all. Y'all know what the Jets.
I'm a Sam, but you already know where I'm at when it comes, or maybe you don't. I publicly speak. I actually have a bet this year against my man Rob Stats from SB Nation because he thinks that Sam Darnold is just complete trash, and I think Sam Darnold was in a bad situation with a horrible coach.
I agree 1,000%.
With a horrible owner, with a horrible front office, with a horrible everything. I think him going to Carolina is just horrible everything. I think him going to Carolina is the best thing for his career, and I think he's going to go down there and he's going to light it up. He's not going to be MVP, but compared to what he's been in New York or New Jersey, he's going to light it up. It's going to be phenomenal to watch the transformation of Sam Darnold.
I agree
1,000%. He can be a top 15 quarterback in a good situation. I think he has the talent to be that.
And I'll take it one more step before before we get out of here. I like Teddy Bridgewater. Like I really like Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think he's obviously a franchise guy. I really like Teddy. Sam Darnold's better than Teddy. There's a reason why the Panthers were okay with saying, all right, we'll trade Teddy out and bring Sam in. There's a reason. Yep. Those fans don't want to admit it because we hate our rivals. I get it. I'm going to just tell you, I was nervous at first when they drafted Darnold because I knew the talent that he has. It's just that Adam Gase is horrible. So we're going to get out of here, though, man. We're passing this hour up. So, Rich, I know you don't have like a show to announce and all that stuff, but why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter and anything you got going on? And
Other than fishing, I don't have a whole lot going on. My summer's pretty well free. Well, I am coming to Buffalo.
Let's go.
Whether if they're having training camp or not, me and my son Andrew's coming up, so I'll be going up there.
They're talking about, obviously, you know that they've canceled the St. John Fisher thing, but they're talking about, Bean was also on the radio today, talking about trying to have one or two like fan attended practices in the stadium, which they've done in the past. So just be looking for that.
Bean also talked about putting high rises up and to be able to look over and still be socially distanced. So
for me, that speaks more to next year. And like, are the Bills going back to St. John Fisher? But that's a conversation for another day. If you want to find Richard Rush, look for him in the comments section of just about any alternative content Bills show on YouTube. The man is an anchor. Like,
that's a fact. He's there. He's so supportive. And man, I thank you so much for being a part of this tonight and always being supportive on every show that I do, every show that Joe does, and I'm sure everybody else in the comments who creates content will have the same thing to say. So, man, thank you so much for being a part of this. Hey, EJ, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you? My man from Coldfront Report, Coldfront in the building.
Yes, sir. Coldfront Report, like they said, me and Jeremy have a show every Saturday right now, the Hot Topic, where we just tackle like one hot topic that's floating around Bills Mafia Twitter. We're going to attack that every Saturday morning. And then you can find me personally at eDaniel77, like it says right there. I'm here for all your hot takes. I was in a hot take for the last 2 days with the Tannehill thing. Any of your hot takes you have, just come bring them my way.
EJ is not shy.
No, he's definitely not shy. So everybody go follow my man EJ. Go follow all my people over there at Coldfront Report too. They got a good thing going on over there. They have a lot of good talent. This week, Joe and I are not doing the Hump Day Hotline. So initially I was supposed to have Joe on, and it was just going to be the two of us, and we were going to talk about the stuff that we were going to talk about Wednesday. But I'm going to the playoff game where the Phoenix Suns are playing against Utah. Or whoever, I think they're playing Utah. I don't even care. I'm going. And then Joe has some other stuff going on. He got to work. So he has to work. So he's making that money. You know what I mean? He's getting that bag. So we're not going to do Hump Day. So today was kind of like a Hump Day mashup that didn't end up a Hump Day mashup because we just kind of talked with each other. But Joe, I love you, man. Why don't you let everybody know where they can find you, what you got going on, what you got coming up this week or next week?
Same old, same old. You'll find me live on YouTube 9:00 next week on Sunday. I don't have a guest yet. Maybe it'll be EJ, maybe not. We'll see what happens.
Please let it be EJ. EJ is dying to go on the show with Joe Miller. Please.
That's funny. But you can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired, and so I think everybody in the comment section probably knows who I am. So I'm the annoying guy that laughs and says like a lot. So
I think we all have a thing. We all have a thing. And shout out to your sister Jamie. I always enjoy seeing her in the comments. I just absolutely love when your family takes part of. They love
me. I don't know why, but they love me.
Well, you're lovable. You're easy to love. You're easy to love. So, ladies and gentlemen, y'all know how I do it. It's your boy Jay Spence the King. You can find me on Twitter at Jay Spence the King. The Code of Conduct is live right now, so find me every Monday live at the same time. Next week, I will have our old beat reporter from ESPN, our previous guy, Mike Rodak, is joining me. He is now covering Alabama's football team, but he's going to be coming back to Buffalo. Well, not literally, but he'll be coming back to hang out with all the Buffalo people. I also have a show later on in the month that I'll announce it now. I have a fan favorite. We got my home girl. I'm gonna have ladies night. And we got Madison Carter joining us. We got Renee Washington from ESPN joining us. We got Judge Pridgeon from Buffalo, New York joining us. And we have Adri V from WBLK. We're going to do a ladies night. We're going to talk sports. We're going to talk everything, just everything. But we're going to let the ladies run the show that night. So it's going to be a really, really fun show with a judge, a reporter, a ESPN reporter, and a music DJ. So it's going to be a ton of fun. Everybody, thank y'all so much for kicking it with me. Y'all know how I do it here. Take care of each other, love each other, and live in peace. And as always, stay positive and test negative. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.